What if we could learn from outstanding leaders in business, sports, and education from some of the best voices in corporate America? Lighting the Path is a series of interviews with industry leaders whose stories highlight strategies that build purpose-driven cultures, engage and retain top talent, develop drivers that create high-performance teams, and connect people to the vision of your company. Join us to hear from game-changing, talented leaders whose paths make a difference at work and at home.
If you look at the last year of your life, and I say it that way because I'm not sure when you're going to be watching or listening to this. But if you look at the last year of your life and you look at what you accomplished, what did you change? What did you do? I want to rephrase the question. Were you transformed? Were you transformed? That's a powerful word that we're going to spend some time with today because of our guest, Martine Cohen. She is a transformational life strategist. Uh, and she's in my space because she's also an awesome leadership coach. She's a best-selling author, and along with, like myself, as a keynote speaker. And what happens is that she's been on this journey, and her journey has reshaped the way she looked at things. And it's specifically because of a car accident. A car accident that just and didn't just rattle her cage, it turned her life completely upside down, where she comes out of it into a coma and literally had to reshape her brain, which became an epiphany for her, changed her life, changed her views when she learned that there are ways that we can reshape the way we look and think. It's in our control. And I can't think of a more important topic for us to be talking about today. So, Martina, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. The we were talking just before we hit the recording button on here about the fact you also are a reformed attorney. Uh, like saying that.
Like I told Mike before, I was actually a happy attorney. I can't do things unless I love them or they resonate on some level. But for me, law is just a lot of strategy, mental gymnastics, and creating with words, which is then what I do in sort of, when I've pivoted. I use that same skill set and it serves me very well.
Yeah. Your introduction was also a hook for the listener because anytime you hear something about a dramatic accident and coma and reshaping brains, I did that intentional because I want to start there with that. Tell us about what was that day like, and how did that really turn your role upside down?
So thankfully, it wasn't a coma, but it was a serious brain
Ah,
injury
okay.
where I lost consciousness. But it was a regular day, and I was literally running an errand. So you never know what the day is going to bring. You just got to be open to it and have what I call an adventurer mindset, which is let me just get curious and do whatever I can with whatever's before me. And there was apparently this woman that was on her phone, and her car rammed into mine on the driver's side. So I never saw it coming. I didn't know I was in a car accident until I came to. I lost consciousness. I can't tell you for how long. When I came to, I had paramedics who were kind of like trying to get me to wake up and were talking to me. And the first thing that struck me was I thought I was yelling and trying to respond to them. And I saw them come closer and closer and put their ear to my mouth to try to hear what I was saying. And I literally was using all the energy that I thought I had to respond to them. So that was already, for me, that kind of like major disconnect, like what's going on here? Where am I? What am I doing? I didn't know I was in a car accident.
Mm.
Um, so I couldn't really connect. I was later diagnosed, I was followed by a neurologist and later diagnosed with post-concussive syndrome. What that means is you have some damage to your brain. We don't know because, the brain is a very finicky organ and anything that you would do would be way too intrusive. So we do not know how that's going to play out. They give themselves about a year to see whether there was going to be any residual damage or what's going to happen. And that was a terrifying prospect. Imagine I'm an attorney, my brain is me and I'm my brain and I identify with that and it's kind of like my superpower
You bet.
and it's my identity really. I didn't realize, but it had become my identity. It's my
I think
personality.
that's true for most of us in a leadership role, right? It's our ability to think our way through things
Ability to
or the
think, to
inherent
create,
knowledge that
to
just,
strategize. It is your superpower. And imagine your superpower being stripped away from you, along with your personality, the way you filter the world, and the way you're able to interact with the world at a moment's notice, unexpectedly, of course. And then here you are, like this lump, on a log, and you're like, what am I doing next? And who am I? And is this going to be the new way I have to live?
Mm.
So that's a terrifying prospect for somebody who is so much, you know, in their head, so to speak, uses their brain, and that, is the way that they make things happen, and that's the key to their success, or so they think.
Right. And so you find yourself into this place of high trauma,
High
and
trauma.
you had to
Yeah.
go through a process of, as you were sharing, retraining, rewiring your brain. What did that look like?
So I have to tell you that part was actually a lot of fun. But before I got to that part, that was the scary part. Realizing that I may not ever feel like myself again
Hmm.
is hugely frightening and humbling at the same time, right? Because it opens up a world that you never imagined. Like, how am I supposed to live if I don't feel like myself? And it forces you to go and explore and become creative without your brain. And so at one point, as I was realizing all of these things and felt that I was thrust in this darkness, and the only thing I knew what to do is to go inward. I don't know to this day what made me do that, some sort of instinct, intuition, whatever you want to call it. And I realized we have this inner landscape of shoulds and layers and things that control us. And we're not often in our driver's seat. I can tell you that much. We think we are, but we're not. We have fears, we have limiting beliefs, we have, expectations, our own, the world, an image that we want to uphold, anything, and they're all legitimate. But what they do is they disempower us. And I started exploring this landscape, and this is what I call the blessing of a dysfunctional brain. Because my brain was not functioning, it didn't stop me from exploring. There was no judgment around anything that I found. There was no story around it. There was nothing to say, you shouldn't be feeling like this, or this shouldn't be here, right? Because this is what we have
Hmm.
in our mind 24/7. I had quiet, peace and quiet, imagine. But then at one point, I just realized if my brain's not functioning and I wouldn't be able to have this kind of conversation with another human being, what is this awareness? Why do I know I'm doing this? What is this that knows that I'm actually exploring my inner layers and my inner landscape and finding all these things that don't serve me? And that's when I realized I had this insane aha moment, which was like, oh my goodness, I'm not my brain. I'm not my intellect. I'm not that organ in my body. It doesn't define me. I'm actually so much more. And that was so powerful because that's when I started reconnecting with myself, even though I still couldn't connect with the outside world. That inner awareness that we all have, that's who should be driving us because that's really the core of who we are. And it's also the core of the seat of our power, so to speak. It's not our brain, it's
Yeah.
beyond the brain. It
I
really
love
is
that
beyond the
because
brain.
especially in this time of uncertainty that we're in, there's never been a more, and the time of the year. Here we're on the end of the fourth quarter, starting in the first quarter next year. It's just the change of the calendar is a fictitious thing. I mean, the fact when we turn the page on December 31 to January, nothing changes other than the page on but yet there's a reset mode that kicks in. We got a new year. We can leave last year behind. And I love what you're talking about, that right now there's, as we try to chart the type of leader we want to be, the effectiveness. And when I say leader, I mean at work and at home, leading ourselves,
Yes.
that we have to go inward and really spend some time reflecting on what? How do we start this process?
And I like what you said because with my clients and top executive, it's never why. Why is sort of very narrow. It invites judgment from the brain, and it already presupposes this should not be this way.
Hmm.
Right? Words actually matter for the brain because that is how you wire and rewire and program your brain. It's your words, which are, your thoughts are your silent words, your silent communication with yourself. So words really matter. They are what rewires your brain. It's what, because what is curious, it's open, it's a bit adventurous. I'm not sure what this is, but let me go find out. And
Yeah.
you need to know that in the place of curiosity, fear doesn't live. So,
Ooh, say that again. I want to make sure our listeners heard that, and I'll tell you why in a second.
curiosity, fear doesn't live. It cannot live. So, I have this thing where I say, let's replace fear with curiosity. The brain doesn't do both. when you imagine the brain as this like young entity that's really eager and overzealous and wants to warn you about everything that could possibly go wrong, and you're like, no, 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 let's go somewhere else. Let's go get curious. Let's go play in this playground together. And then your brain starts getting busy with that. It forgets to make you feel fearful about the exact same thing. So the unknown is wonderful. Uncertainty is great. First of all, certainty is fictitious,
That's
but
right.
uncertainty is fantastic because it's fraught with possibility and openness and expansion and newness. And so we love that, but the brain doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Brain really likes patterns, status quo. Your third quarter was not good. Let's keep it the same because we know at least we can survive.
Our brain is designed to protect us, but it goes
Over,
to,
I want to say over
I like that better, overprotect us. And
because we
yeah.
don't choose the programming. I have an alarm system in the house, like most people probably do, and I can gauge sort of. I can program it to be more or less sensitive, so that if there's a leaf in the wind that's blowing in front of my door, it's not going to sound an alarm as if there's an intruder. But I need to program the intensity or the sensitivity.
Mm-hmm.
Thing with our brain.
Special awareness.
Yeah,
For our listeners who've um, participated in previous episodes, they've heard me talk about the fact that I spent 15 years of my life dealing with severe panic attacks, anxiety attacks, almost to a point that I was getting close to being housebound. And so the subject of fear is always hits things with me or whatever because of when you say that is that especially with somebody who dealt with a phobic mentality, that fear doesn't live in a place of curiosity. And it's
exactly.
because of the fact when we're curious, we're focused on possibility, we're focused on solution, where fear most of the time points us toward the perceived pain, the perceived angst. So it's a way of being able to reshift and reshape our focus, our mind. I talk about our mind's eye. We actually have a third eye right here. It's the mind's eye. Uh, and I love what you're saying about this whole concept of being able to watch out for those trigger words as we're trying to chart courses.
That's how I rewired my brain. And also, fear doesn't exist in the present moment. It's based on the past, but it's about anticipation about something in the future that could happen in 3 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
But it's never present moment. Present moment, you're going to look what's in front of you and you're going to do what you can with what you have.
Mm,
And that allows you to stay out of that fear where it kind of grips you, right?
you bet.
Presence, intentionality, those are all things that, get you out of that fear mindset and gets you into curiosity, creativity, communication, and ultimately internal success, which is where success truly resides.
It really does. And I love this thing about fear doesn't operate in the present because that's how we actually move forward by being in the present, not worrying about the future and letting go of shame of the past. You used the word should earlier, right? Should is a limiting word. Are
Yeah.
there other, when you work with your clients, are there other words you kind of coach them to watch out for?
So shoulds is huge. Why? Never start a question with why. And then another thing is just to question. I have a whole chapter on the art of questioning because in reality we take our thoughts at face value as if they are, engraved in stone. And do we ever stop to question our thoughts? To question if we agree with the thought or with the fear? Like, do you agree with the fear
Mm-hmm.
that you can't leave your house? Because if you would like to, then it's not you. That's
Right.
number one, right? So and one thing that's really wonderful is the biggest fear that we have is the fear of feeling fear. So if
Mm-hmm.
we're not afraid of feeling a certain emotion, right away already that layer, that grip is loosened, right? And it's questioning these things. Do I agree with this fear? If I don't agree with the thought, if I don't agree with the fear, so why am I serving it? Why
Yeah.
am I subservient to it?
Yeah, that was it's I can see why you and I were led to talk today
Yeah.
because of the fact that when the whole part of the panic attacks, I wasn't afraid to getting on an airplane. I was afraid of the panic attack I might get if I got on an airplane because that was the place where I got my first panic attack.
Correct.
And I
And the
started,
brain will associate the two, even if they're unrelated. And that's what it is. It's about we need to question because the more we question, the more we can uncover our authentic self, and the more we sort of like push fear and limiting beliefs out of the driver's seat,
You betcha.
into
And
the
especially
passenger,
from
into the trunk, or just out on the side of the
just
road.
move it aside so you can take a step forward. I mean, for me to be able to have clients that range from Canada to South Africa is nothing short of a blessing.
Absolutely.
Courses life that I had. And I want to make sure we don't run out of time with this because we've been kind of alluding to a few things. You have this awesome book. It's an award-winning book. It's called No More Layers. And so we're not just talking about a concept or kind of, I call it a rah-rah talk going, you can do this. You actually have a process that you walk people through. Give us the premise and how what the message is that you write about.
Yeah. So the tagline of the book is Discover Your Inner Power and Reclaim True Freedom from the Inside Out. And the reason I mention the tagline is because we're not so free, right? We're very sort of outcome vested and rather than process oriented, right? It's I'm going to measure my success by external numbers, by my quarter at the end, by nothing to do with my inner value, nothing to do with my authentic self, nothing to do with anything about me. So we end up serving all these things and becoming slaves to them rather than first and foremost coming to something whole. When you come from to something whole, then you will be very successful. But everything starts inwardly. So I have these three pillars. I mean, I there are client stories, there's inspiration, there's my own story, because if I'm going to ask the reader to sort of be vulnerable and sort of go through this process, I need to do that, right? There are exercises, so it meets the reader and the learner wherever they're at and in whatever way they can integrate. So it really is this kind of walking the journey. And my intention was for this book to meet the reader wherever they're at. And if they read it more than once, it'll meet them there as well. So that was really my goal. Um, and then there are three pillars to it. I call it the three A's that lead to the fourth. So it's adventure, awareness, alignment that leads to authentic living. And it's really about leading yourself so that then you can go out and lead others. So adventure is like I alluded to it a little bit before. Adventure is that open mindset. So do you have the right mindset in the morning at every step of the way in your day before you going to go encounter something? And then awareness. Are you aware of who's leading you? What's leading you today? Is it your fear? Is it your, procrastination? Is it some sort of layer? And I have a chapter on the inner boardroom where you can go into this whole process of how to hear all your layers, how to figure out all the different sort of entities inside of you when you have that tug of war, so that you can actually take a step or make a decision from a place of choice rather than having to do something because you're pressed for time, you're pressured, or you just need to get it off your list. There's a lot about choice and freedom of choice, which we have as human beings, but we don't exercise properly. So awareness, and awareness leads you to alignment. When you know what's running your show and you can work through it and free yourself of it, then you can actually choose from a place of alignment. And alignment is really kind of not just a manifestation, but expression of all of who you are. And when you're whole with something, you're good. Then you're not even sort of tied to an outcome because you love the process. And that's how you tether yourself to yourself, and your internal communication becomes much stronger, and you can start really quietening your mind and not having incessant mind chatter if you don't want it.
Yeah, here's the process I'm hearing you describe. To me, is it's rewiring the brain, as you call it that, but it's really being able to go through and identify limiting thoughts that limit um, what your capabilities are, the steps that you can take, and giving yourself permission to pursue those things that are important to you and knocking down brain dead. So it literally is, uh, I think, the biggest catalyst that we need when we're trying to step in that place of new, uncomfortable, solve problems, let things go in the past, is being able to go and identify things that might be limiting our ability to lead a life that we really want to be able to overcome obstacles, be able to achieve the things that we want. That's what it sounds like, the process that you take people on.
Yes, but it's in a way where you feel the shift from the beginning. So it's not excruciating, it's not
No, yeah.
difficult, it's not scary. There are tons of brain hacks along the way because we bypass all of that internal resistance. We bypass the brain's fear. We keep it busy with things that make it fun for the brain while we actually work, multi-level kind of way of working with clients, or I do workshops as well, things like that on leadership where you come out inspired and re-empowered because the way that we live today is really disempowering.
Hmm.
And when we don't fully own everything that we do, we disempower ourselves. We give the power over to an event, a circumstance, uh, you know, bad financials, or a shareholder meeting that hasn't gone well, rather than saying, imagine if everything was my choice. It's be like, whoa, I don't really like that because there are certain things that now that means I have to own it all.
Yeah, the
Okay,
responsibility goes with
I
that.
can own it all. It means if I own it all, I can do something about it. I can
Yeah.
shift it and navigate it and redirect it elsewhere. So imagine all of that, sort of fragmented power that we kind of like leave behind and we forget, we need to go back and take it and retrieve it because we have much more power and capacity and capability than we allow ourselves to think.
Yeah, what I like about this, and this journey that you're taking us on, it's not a fear-laden journey. It's a freeing journey. It literally brings freedom to unload this weight that a lot of times we put on our own shoulders. That have to do with life circumstances, life situations, and a lot of times just the fact that I'm writing my fourth book now is weird because I'm a college dropout, right? And yeah, I've had to, as I was going through this journey, that was a limiting belief. What right do I have of being able to share my thoughts?
But
And
but I just want to pick up on that. So,
Mhm.
I'm a college dropout is an identity,
It is.
not a
That's right.
college dropout.
It's a label. It's a
Right. So,
self-imposed
and
one.
it means a lot of things, right? And that's why am I writing my fourth book? By the way, I applaud you. I wrote one book and I'm like, wow, that's like quite you become an author. It's transformational to write
Hmm.
a book. Um, but you're not, I would say you're not a college dropout. You dropped out of college. It's not the
Hmm.
same thing. And even if you say it, like if the body has a lot of wisdom, when we say, I'm sorry to use this as an example, but I'm a college dropout feels something in your body. And we say, I dropped out of college, it's more open,
Hmm.
same reality.
Yeah. And
So,
the other part that you're hitting on right now, it has to do with it's a label I'm putting on myself. And I talk about it openly because when you put light on darkness, then darkness goes away. And the clients I work with, they go, so what? I mean, I get invited into boardrooms to help facilitate discussions, and the things I get a chance to do is based upon a lot of other life circumstances and situations and experiences that I've had. We have a tendency to label ourselves, which builds a fence around us, as opposed to releasing things.
but we do need to understand where that comes from because then we're not having to be captive to it. This is a world of contrast. We can't assess anything or understand anything or perceive it unless it's one is different than the other. We know white exists because we also know other things exist like black, right? So we
Right.
know I'm a university, graduate, I'm a dropout, I'm a this, I'm a that. This is how we understand and filter and process the world.
Hmm.
It doesn't mean that it's supposed to be used as a label to categorize a person and have like 10 other attributes that that person is going to be or not be, or things that they can and cannot do. There are endless opportunities in the world. And if we understand I chose this path and it led me to this and it led you to write four books and on, it's kind of not so relevant.
Right. Now, does comparison fall into the same category?
Yeah.
You know, I
Because, but so if we understand it's just the way the brain perceives things, it just so happens that this is the way we are created. The brain cannot understand something where there's no contrast because it won't know it, it won't be aware of its existence. That's all
Mhm.
it is. We've turned it into so much more. Oh, if you're this or you have this status or your company's doing this amount of money, then you're successful. But if you're miserable,
Mhm.
so then you
Yeah.
have this extra sort of layer that you have to fight through of saying, okay, I'm a high school dropout or I'm worthless or I'm this. but I still want to accomplish this. So now I don't just have to work to go accomplish something. I first have to fight through the label that I put on
You gotta fight
myself,
the shackles, yeah. And that's the
right?
reason I bring up comparison is that it
Yeah.
has to do with if I compare myself to someone else, I see them as further down the road, more capable, or what have you. Uh,
And
that's
social media does that really well today,
big
right?
time.
The plague of the century. But the idea is to stay in your lane and to expand your lane and to grow in your lane and to become a master of your lane.
Hmm.
And if everybody does that, we have a completely different world.
Totally, totally. Then, so this has been exciting. I'm so glad you and I got a chance to visit on this.
Thank
Um,
you.
is there something that does it, I'm going to let you have the closing point on this, and the one that you're a zealot on right now. What's if you're going to pick a singular titular message that says this is what I love to lead people with, what would you choose?
So for this particular audience, I would say if there's something that you want to do, if it's aligned with you and you go check out chapter 5 of the book, which is the inner boardroom, because that sort of like walks you through that whole process of whether or not something that you want to do is really aligned with you. But if it is, I'd say go for it because you're never going to desire to do something that you don't have the tools or the capacity to actually go and execute upon.
Mm,
Every step of the way, make it a choice, a real choice of something that you look in the mirror and you'll be like, okay, this is the right next step. And follow that process step by step, and you'll get there.
that's an awesome message. Martine, it reminds me of a conversation I had with a client yesterday who's launching a whole new product line. I mean, it's in the medical field. And I love his attitude. He goes, I'm not sure how I'm going to get this done, but I've got the products designed. I'm lining up manufacturers. I'm not sure. I just know it's going to work. Right. And he's taking
Enter.
steps. He's just taking steps because that's actually the title of my fourth book. It's called Move the Ball. Right. That's all he's doing. He's moving the ball. And what a great way to put a cap on today. For those of you, again, remember the title of her book is, if I flip my page over here, is No More Layers. And if you're looking for something to stimulate thought for this next year, this next season you're going through, grab a copy of it and look for the contact. What's the best way for people to get in contact with you, Martine?
Sure. So I'll just give my email because I have an open door policy, which is I respond to every single email, not an assistant or AI. And it's Martine at martinecohen.com. Super easy. The book's available on Amazon, also very easy. And they can also, check out the website. Martine.
Super. We'll drop that in the show notes also. And it's been a joy getting a chance to visit with you, and I wish you great success.
Thank you so much. You as well. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us today on Lighting the Path, Strategies for Tomorrow's Leaders. If anything in this podcast speaks to you, if I've challenged you, or if you want to spend time digging into this subject a little deeper, or if you disagree with me, reach out. My contact information is on our website, lightingthepath.net, or email me at mike@mikelejeune.com. Also, look for me on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect our networks. Keep lighting the path for those who choose to follow you. It's more than a responsibility. It's an honor.